I recently switched from Adobe Photoshop to Affinity Photo. There are some features where Affinity Photo really shines and some where not so much. But the real question is it actually worth making the switch? Let me show you some of the awesome features of Affinity Photo and then you decide. What's up, friends? This is me, Suket. I'm an independent designer, filmmaker, and editor. Welcome back to my channel for a new video. Sometime back, I'd switched to alternatives to few of the Adobe applications that I use in my freelancing and YouTube workflow. And one of those gems is Affinity Photo. Let me show you some of the features that I absolutely love about Affinity Photo. Numero uno. I would like to start with the workflow. Just like Adobe, Affinity 2 has both vector and raster applications. But unlike Adobe, both of these applications work perfectly in tune with each other. What I mean is, I'm from a graphic design background and I love working with vectors. But sometimes when I had to open my Illustrator file in Photoshop, it used to be a real pain in the ass. Photoshop would have very limited options for editing the file. But in Affinity Photo, if I open a Affinity Designer file, it works like a charm. All your vectors still act as vectors with the layers intact. I can do my editing, export the file to various formats, or just save the file again. This is not possible with Adobe. And even if it is not as smooth as it can be done in Affinity. So on this note, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Your one subscription goes a long way in motivating me to make more such informative videos for you. Number two that I want to bring up is the RAW converter. Affinity Photo's RAW converter does function slower than Photoshop's, but it has more options than you would find in the RAW converter inside of Photoshop. As you can clearly see, this is the RAW converter in Photoshop, and these are the functions available in it. While on the other hand, you have the RAW converter from Affinity Photo, and clearly this seems to have more functionality, all stacked under different tabs here on the right hand side. While the left hand side, we have some tools just like we have in Photoshop. Number 3 is live brushes. While using brushes, you get a live preview of the effect the brush stroke is making. As you can see in the preview, I have these two layers stacked one above the other. On the top layer, I create a mask, and as you can see, when I place the brush onto the image, I can see the image below it. This comes really handy when you're working with masks, just like you saw in the demo, where you get a clear insight of what you are masking or unmasking. This also applies to eraser or any other tool that use brushes. Number 4 is non-destructive workflow. Every adjustment layer or filter that you use in your image happens through layers, meaning your file is non-destructible and you can go and change the values of those adjustments or filters anytime you want. I find this very useful when I edit my travel photographs, where I use a couple of adjustments and filters and I can go and change the values of those anytime I want, even after I reopen the file a couple of days later. Also, let me point it out here that the adjustment layers and effects are just sitting in a tab next to the layers tab to be used. Next up is the type tool. With the type tool, when you click and drag, you get a visual display of the size of the text that you would be placing in your design. This is again one of those things that you don't realize you need until you have it. And when you use it, you realize just how simple and efficient it is. Next up is unlimited undos. I know even Photoshop has sort of unlimited undos, but does it also work after you close the file? Well, in Affinity it does. It so happens that up to 8,000 actions that you performed on your file are saved with it even after you close the file. This means that if you reopen the file, you can still undo 8,000 times. A small but a great addition. Next up is stock images. We all use royalty-free images from websites like Unsplash, Pixabay or Pexels. Traditionally, we would be going to the website, search for an image, open it and then download a high resolution version to use for editing. But there is always a but. In Affinity, you have all of these three websites as plugins directly in your tab right here. All you got to do is select the website you want to get your image from, enter your search criteria, and just click and drag the image that you like onto your canvas. And just like that, you have a high resolution version of a royalty free image to use for editing. Just saves some extra steps for me. So these are some of the features that I absolutely love about Affinity Photo. There are many more, but if I include all of them in the video would be too long. If you found the video informative, like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified about my new videos. And if you have any questions about Affinity Photo, put them down in the comments and I will try to answer them all. See you all in the next video. This is me Suket signing off.